right, y'all. Beats, Rhymes, y Comunidad, episode number 5. Wow. Guys, do not adjust your television sets because I am reporting to you live from sunny Sanford, Florida at the Amtrak station. Why? Because Beats, Rhymes, y Comunidad is coming home to Jersey City. That's right. Your host, Jersey City Jeff, is going to be spending the summer in Jersey City getting a lot of greatness for season 2. So pack up your bags and get ready to hop on this ride with us because we're excited. We're pumped up. This week, we got a few unique from the Arsonists joining us. Incredible conversation with that young man. And these next few episodes, just so y'all know, are going to go heavy into the Arsonist career. I think this is a brotherhood that was born out of the community of hip hop, this wonderful culture that we're all a part of. And it's endured. It's endured beyond the past 25 years. Last year was the 25th anniversary of As the World Burns. We have a book to look forward to coming from your man StillWell and the rest of the wonderful guys from the Arsonists. We're excited for this, guys. We got Zenobia coming up next week. Look at this. Look at what's going on back here. We have StillWell from the Arsonists coming up for week number 7. And yeah, man, we're ready. We're excited. We're pumped up for the summer. With this being Mental Health Awareness Month, I'd like to take the opportunity to dedicate this episode to a brother of mine who we lost to depression 2 years ago today. Friday, May 16th, is the transition of my brother Daniel Xavier Rivera. So I want to make sure that we take the time out to dedicate this episode to him. We love you. We miss you. We're excited for Jersey City this summer. There's a lot of events coming up. We got NEMS at SOBs. We got the Puerto Rican Day Parade coming up in June. You already know June is Wepa time in New York City. So it's going to be lots of wonderful things going on. We got Bushwick Collective. Salute to everybody that's a part of that beautiful event. Man, I'm excited, man.
All right, y'all. We made it onto the train safely. We are on our way to Jersey City for the summer. Let's get you up into this mix because we got some Arsonist stuff to show you this week. We got Q Unique stuff to show you this week. We got StillWell stuff to show you this week. Man, Q Unique is a powerhouse. Just in case y'all ain't know, you're about to find out. Best friends with Fieldy from Korn, toured with Korn for 20 years. Come on, man. I'm super pumped to get you into this interview, but let's hit this mix first. Jersey City Jeff in Jersey City for the entire summer, man. Arsonist set fires.
I suggest you keep your distance. My death blows inevitable and you're susceptible to physical injury. This music industry is full of sin. That's why I'm flipping, dipping and diving. Phony executives to keep always consecutive. We also got a lot of actors who claim they bring their drama. The only way they're getting laid out is with your mama's comments. Couldn't stop me, semicolons and hyphens when I freestyle. 200 words a minute, poetry type when I'm hyping. I seem to like end the tunnel like one in the chamber, ready to penetrate a stranger. I love the smell of danger. When the word Austin, this ain't hard to figure yet. Gotta stop smoking them G's. Somebody pass me the nigga. Put your hands together, we about to bust your melon. Crossing the map with yours and vinyl top. Silencer, stop telling me tales. Your act ain't got no character. Need more practice, now you need more stamina. The man with the intense flow, burning up the vehicle. The battle just me and you. Sorry, me and your crew. There's no chance, I wonder when you end up getting played. Keep your ashes in the urn and make sure they're being saved. Keep looking into the eyes of my enemy's fortress. Snorkeling deep within the outskirts, moving and cool and stalling. Falling behind a vibe on the summit, turning don't test me. Creepy callers, yawn, habits really starting to bore me. Forcing me to flee up on a corner, spread disease. High remedy for the is a DT. Power to be, feed upon the energy, cause he got on our seeds. Here to serve a good deed for those who need it to be you please. Fakers like tapes after beatdowns, defeat clowns with street sounds. Neighbors tell me to keep the heat down. In this deep town with food slip like cool trip. This ain't no school trip, it's some cruise shit like news clips. Cruise step, heavy more style. Watch you rip the flakes, triple flakes. Make non-believers do the triple take. A bomb cruise to our Tom Cruise on a mission. My position got competitions, mama wishing. Next exhibition by Ricky Snake, Orange's Bay. From the Wimbledon Ocean, the Army Show. What get you play? My toes shivers like clean clothes. Lyrical beat pros, long game street flows. Open team knows. We get around like newsmans, giving black and blues bands, so who can? Touch the metal flavors like Toucan. 5 elements, 5 microphones, 5 MCs as the world burns, about to bring it live. Fully equipped with the mic and a spray can. I withstand any wicked plan, conjured by a wicked man, a quick hand, a snatch up. Ramos and his juice sparks the matchup. The ciphers and flames got nothing to lose but a whole lot to gain. So I remain the main master of ceremonial. Like Puerto Rico remains prison by colonial. Yeah, verses, over chopper curses couldn't face, but basic rhyme patterns have you all standing in the maze. I reached the track up as if it was my Nike Air. Know what MCs unaware, cook a bag, glare out, shine. clarity of rhymes bring light to the subject of lyrical content. The rhythm give this contract. Freestyle swell, Q-Unique, destroy turntables, microphones, spray cans, and b-boys. We got it all locked, 5 lyrical messiahs. Hands up, what? Arsonists setting fires. Arsonists setting fires. Arsonists setting fires. Arsonists setting fires. Arsonists. Arsonists. As the world Paris. Setting fires. See you out of it.
Merci beaucoup. C'était le groupe new-yorkais Arsonists.
Respect the technique. This
Yes,
is Rock
sir.
Steady 2016, going into 17. My man Q-Unique in the building. Yo, you gonna talk to them or something?
Yeah, son. Yeah,
let's get it.
yeah. Call me War Machine, aka James Rhodes. Zip up the Woolrich, homie, the game's cold. Capital Q, ask around, the name's known. It doesn't matter, rock or rap, I got the same goals. Get to the top of the list, hit without option to miss. Drop you with a pop of the fist, a plot twist. Without a Glock in the clip, I'm stopping you from popping shit. Stock with cottons like cotton mouth spit. Evade the radar, lose the magnetron. On a Joseph Simmons run through a music marathon. Get Chris Hardwick so we can talk Q-Unique. In a mashup parade, marching through the streets. Let it be known your gun is a replica chrome. Instead I'm controlling the head of Jessica Jones. Killgrave, I'm willing to kill Satan. You heavily hallucinating off of the pill taking.
Damn. It's like that, Q? Shit, son.
How wonderful and pleasant it is when brothers live together in harmony.
Blood brothers, fourth zodiac, we love summer. Thor and Loki, one's chaos, one's thunder. Both with parachutes, one without a ripcord. One's a Jedi Knight, one of them's a Sith Lord. One's a cop, one's a robber. Don't quicken your assumption, shit's twisted when it's fitted with corruption. One's a mama's boy, one will play the streets for love. One's an angry hawk, one of them's a peaceful dove. One's got demons, one is part of God's committee. One's from Metropolis, one's from Gotham City. One's a candlelight, the other one's a burning flame. One's a cool breeze, the other one's a hurricane. One's a scatterbrain, the other one's a level head. One is hip-hop, the other one's a metalhead. One is humble, one needs a beat to brag. One's an oil painting, one is a graffiti tag. That's my brother, my ace. My blood brother. I miss my brother, my ace. My blood brother. That was my brother, my ace. Can I get a peace sign from my brother, my ace? Come on. Walking down the avenue, arm over arm. Best friend, blood brother, 133rd Psalm. Broken home, Brooklyn bound and trained. You mastered the martial arts, I mastered the pen game. Before we laid our head to rest, mom would take the Bible out. And when we fought, it was like fighting for a title bout. And when the bullies came around, we had each other's back. Iron sharpens iron, that's a real brother's act. You ain't have the good grades, but you was hood smart. You had a bad temper, but you had a good heart. You was a good father, good brother, good son. Felt I had the answers to what God should have done. And even though we know it's all coming to an end, nothing could prepare you when a brother transcends. Looking back at old pics, tears in my eyes. Forever you'll be missed, the spirit in the sky. That's my brother, my ace. That's my blood brother. I miss my brother, my ace. That's my blood brother. That was my brother, my ace. Can I get a peace sign from my brother, my ace? Come on, my brother, right? Who that? You're my blood, my motherfucking heart. But I love my brother, and I love him back. I wish people of the world could be like that. My brother, right? Who that? You're my blood, my motherfucking heart. But I love my brother, and I love him back. I wish people of the world could be like that. Yeah, I've never been the same since my brother died. I'm 50% happy and 50% sad. And I'll be sad and melancholy about that forever, and I know it. I don't want to forget my brother. I don't want to forget what it felt like when he died, because he deserves it. That's how important he was to me. Out on your own terms, go out on a stretcher.
The shit's check. Yes, it ain't checkers.
If you rather dispute, I gather the troops. A ravenous group that'll grab at your loot. The savage is loose, I'm a dragon like Bruce. Cause capital's true. sober. Born in Brooklyn, New York, of royal blood. Hit the Long Beach, original Rambus, your boy's buzzed. He divides the streets, keep me wise, a speedy GT driver. Believe it that I'm needed, I'm the equalizer. Study my surroundings before I attack. Set the time and no survivors, I'ma slaughter the pack. Capital faces adversity with a bazooka. The point is to surprise and obliterate the intruder. I'm a touch mad, but insanity is a must-have when you aiming to attain an Elon Musk bag. Spot runners, block wreckers, Officer Hoyt, this is chess, not checkers. Go out on your own terms, go out on a stretcher. Officer Hoyt. Picking up the broken pieces, thought I had the best intent. Instead it was a train wreck by my hand. Everybody point their finger to the everyday condemned. My manipulation killed my plan. Wish that I could do it over, wish that I could take it back. Leaning on my own understanding, I did my best to save. Look at the mess I made and try to seal the cracks, but there's no turning back. I did my best to save. Look at the mess I made and try to seal the cracks, but there's no turning back. And all the times I tried to rescue, and every time I got involved, my only chance to rise had gone. And every time I start to question, every time I think it through, where in the hell did I go wrong? I did my best to save. Look at the mess I made and try to seal the cracks, but there's no turning back. I did my best to save. Look at the mess I made and try to seal the cracks, but there's no turning back. There's no turning back. The minute that you fall is enough. The cynicals are crawling between us. Give me just a call, let me clean up. Let me clean up, let me clean up. The minute that you fall is enough. The cynicals are crawling between us. Give me just a call, let me clean up. Let me clean up, let me clean up. I did my best to save. Look at the mess I made and try to seal the cracks, but there's no turning back. I did my best to save. Look at the mess I made and try to seal the cracks, but there's no turning back. Look at the mess I made. 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 There's no turning back. Now there's no turning back. And so we meet again between a rock and hard place. Undesirables, we're walking, talking hand in hand. You can shoot me first, right between the eyes. So I'm laying here and wondering how I'm alive. Some of my best friends are, most of my addictions, they catch me at my
All right, y'all. Welcome to another episode of Beats, Rhymes, y Comunidad. I am your host, Jersey City Jeff, and today I am joined by a living legend. Some of y'all know him from the Arsonists. Some of y'all know him from CNC Music Factory. Some of y'all know him from Rocksteady. Some of y'all know him from his solo career. And some of y'all know him as a member of the rock band StillWell and from his contributions to the rock scene. All of these reasons are why I'm very excited to have the one and only Anthony Quilles, Q Unique, here with us today. Salute to you, my brother. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. I'm excited to be here, man.
Did I get the Wikipedias right? We got Anthony Quilles. Tell us a little about who you are, where you're from, and how you came to fall in love with hip hop or with music in general. What were the early influences for you?
My stage name is Q Unique. My real name is Anthony Quilles. My father's Puerto Rican. My mother is Italian. I'm a biracial product of biracial love that didn't last really long. I was born in Brooklyn. I spent some time in the Bronx during a very special time because when my parents split, I went to live with my grandmother in the Bronx. It just so happened that at the time that I went to live with my grandmother, hip hop was starting to go from crawling to taking its first steps, if you could metaphor, you know?
Yes.
For me to be able to have Rocksteady crew come to my block because they were hanging out with the older dudes on my grandmother's block, or to see Scene and PJ Pieces on the 6 train while I was going to school, or all of these things that everybody saw in movies, Star Wars and Wild Style. Well, more Star Wars, I kind of got to see firsthand with my own eyes. But I have to say, and I think I might have told you this yesterday, the first person that had the biggest impact on me indirectly until I met him was DJ Red Alert. DJ Red Alert to me was the person that I feel kind of like introduced hip hop on a platform that just brought us all in. What he was playing, when he was playing it, how he was doing it. It was just a magical time for radio and what it was that I was witnessing. And I remember classmates at the time just coming to school with tapes or just talking about what Red Alert had played. And obviously there's others that follow. There's Mr. Magic, there's Chuck Chill Out, there's the DNA show. But for me, it all begins with Red Alert and Fridays and Saturday night mixes that he was doing at that time in New York City. They were very important to me because I was getting to the way he was doing it was he would play what was current. And at that time, we're talking about the beginning of the golden era. That's a magical time. This is when hip hop could do no wrong, right? Everybody was just loving everything, almost everything that was coming out. Everybody was in love with. There was nothing that rubbed us the wrong way, really. And what he would do is he would play the current stuff, but then he would hit you with like some rare tape recording of a Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five doing Flash to the beat, or Run DMC live at the Funhouse, or it was just, and me just being a kid hearing this, it hit me a certain way. It connected to my soul. I knew instantly. And then when he started playing Kane and KRS, it just was like
exploded.
It was like, this is it. This is it. This. And I watched the change happen, and the change to me was beautiful. Even though the crack era was starting to creep in, the change in hip hop to me was beautiful.
I get into Swell's car. Swell comes to my crib, right? So what is my life right now that I'm getting the privilege and the honor of getting to experience people who I consider to be legends. Swell comes over to the crib, blesses me with an interview. I get in the car. He's on the FaceTime with you, and I just shot my shot right there. I was like, hey, man, I've been a big fan. Been showing you mad love on the gram, man. I'd love to have you join me, and you gladly accepted. So I appreciate you for that. But it's just crazy how these things come together. And I think you can relate, right? As someone who came up in the culture,
yes,
having those just wow, like what is my life right now moments, you know? Talk a little bit about that. Let's kick it off with a little bit of that energy.
You know, my life, as soon as I knew that I wanted to do this, it unfolded that way, because the first person to be the tour guide of my career, the guy who was my first mentor, is Crazy Legs from the Rocksteady Crew. Now, you got to understand, at the time, he was a rock star in New York because of Beat Street and Wild Style and Style Wars, and obviously the legend of the Rocksteady Crew itself. To have a person like that be your mentor, especially coming from a kid like me who had nothing or no one in this industry to guide me. When I started, I was just in the street with the other hip hop heads, trying to figure it out, trying to understand what we were a part of. And I felt like getting the golden ticket for Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. It just felt wild. And even today, I still, even though he has become more of my older brother because he's known me for so long, I still trip from time to time on just little moments that you just like, man, you know, I remember the time when I first started hanging, and he was like, yo, you want to watch Wild Style or Beat Street? And it was just the request itself was so odd. And then you're sitting there and you're watching it, and right next to you is the dude that's in the film, and he's breaking down what happened behind the scene and how things were, and some of the facts that the rest of the world won't know. And it's, for me to receive that, it's like, you got to look, in my case, I look to God and I'd be like, thank you. And every chapter, from what you mentioned, like the CNC thing, came to me because of what I do. The StillWell thing came to me because of a friend believed in what it is that I do, and so forth and so on. Even the Arsonist thing just happened by chance. Just like you said, it's like everything just happened just by chance. And in my case, just an act of God, just taking his child and going, now you're going to go here, now you're going to go here, go here, now you're going to go here, you're going to experience this, and you're going to build this character, and you're going to get your training and your skill.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to that feeling, you know, and when you have that sense of a divine plan that's currently unfolding as you're going through it, it makes it all that much more surreal, right?
Not to say that I didn't explore the darkness that was happening around me, because I think that was another thing I told you, was like going to school with, like, during the crack era was crazy, because you would have 15, 16, 17-year-old kids coming to school with fur coats, Gucci sneakers, thick gold chains, 4-finger rings, gold teeth, kitted Beamer outside, kitted Benzes outside. These were teenagers. And so, sure, I loved what I was hearing with Rakim, Kane, KRS, Cool G Rap, Bismarck. But at the same time, I'm broke, and this looked like a good idea too.
Yep. Yeah.
So
the conundrum.
Yeah, it was a weird thing. And the other thing that was crazy about me is that I was underage, in a sense of trying to go to these clubs. And a lot of the times I would get turned away. They wouldn't let me in there because you would look at my face. I didn't even have hair on my face. And I would try to get into these clubs, and I'd be like, you can't come in here. But when I did get in, I always tell people, it's like, I look like Ralph Macchio when I was a kid. I look like a Karate Kid rolling up to like a hip hop club with like a bunch of, like, you know, dudes with gold chains and all of that. And I know I stood out. I know it.
Yeah.
But that's how into it I was. Like, it didn't dawn on me whether I was in danger, because at that time, if you were in New York, you knew that Brooklyn was the wild bunch. They would go to clubs and you know, go through snatching chains and all of that. Yep. And you had the Bronx was crazy, and Queens, you know, everything was just very Wild West. And there I was in the middle, knowing the dangers, but not really caring. It was like, I need to see KRS.
Right.
I need to see Kane and Stetsasonic. I
Mm-hmm.
need, like, something is telling me I need to be in the room.
Was it a long time before you knew that that feeling was within you to then getting to the point where you're like, okay, now I feel like I have something to contribute on top of this. Like, I want them to also know, not only do I need to be there, but I need for them to know that I'm here too. And I could spit some shit. Like, how, like, was it long before you knew that, okay, I want to be an MC? Not only do I love this shit, but I want to be an MC. I want to be a part of this.
You know what's crazy? And I don't think every youngin has this, but a lot of them do. And I also had it. I knew that I wanted to do this, but I didn't understand it. I didn't understand that you had to be consistent. I just thought, oh, I'll just write a rhyme or two or maybe three, and I'm good. I didn't understand the discipline of it. I didn't get it. And then I started that. The other thing that's crazy is when I really got up to courage, a person told me about a recording studio that was in Jamaica, Queens. His name was Anthony Moore. And the reason why I'm saying his name is because I finished reading a Wu-Tang book. They mentioned how Wu-Tang went to record in Jamaica, Queens with Anthony Moore. So I was like in the same spots as a lot of these legends and icons, but I didn't understand the discipline and what I had to do is because when I met Crazy Legs, he made it all clear. So until I went through the process of finally getting to high school and me and Crazy Legs' sister are in the same class and homegirl takes my demo to Crazy Legs, prior to that, I didn't really understand what this whole thing required.
So homegirl brings your demo to Legs, right? And then Legs is like, yo, tell the young homie to come up. You know, let's vibe. What was it like from that point on? Like you become part of the Rocksteady crew. Was there an initiation process? Did Legs just dig your demo and then you were in from there? Like what was that? What was that like?
It was a strange process because I'm not so sure how many MCs they had prior to me. I knew that dudes rhymed. I knew Ken Swift could rhyme, and I knew Wiggles could rhyme, and Fable, and I know Mr. Freeze would write rhymes. But I was just coming in as just an MC. Obviously, at that time, everybody used to break in the streets because it was just the thing to do. But I never considered myself a good enough B-boy to be in Rocksteady that way. Plus, that wasn't my focus. I respected it. I loved it. I tried it. But my focus was to be an MC. So I remember battling somebody, but I don't even understand what happened there.
Yeah.
And then Legs just kind of like, I don't know what I would have to ask him. I don't know what it was. Maybe he just saw the passion,
right,
and potential, and just was like, you know, let's run. And he would take me to open mics and throw me on stage. And some of the situations he threw me on was so crazy. Now time is shifting and the era is shifting. So by the time he's taking me under his wing and throw me on stage, I could tell you one crazy story where he threw me on stage on my birthday. And the way he set it up was we rolled to this club and I'm looking around and Busta Rhymes is in the corner. But this is Busta Rhymes with Leaders of the New School. This isn't solo Busta Rhymes yet. So I knew who he was. Everybody knew who Leaders were in New York. And he walks over he was like, yo, chill right here for a second. He walks over to Busta. I see them talking. And in my head, I'm like, man, I want to meet Busta Rhymes, but I'm just like watching. And he comes back and he's just being quiet. So I'm just chilling, not asking any questions. All of a sudden, Busta Rhymes goes on stage and he was like, yo, we're about to get this cypher going. I want the Brand Nubians on stage. I want Lord Finesse on stage. I want AG on stage. He's naming all of these legends. And then he ends it with, and Q Unique, bring your ass up here. And I'm like, what? Like, it was the craziest thing. So he would throw these challenges at me and I don't think he was challenging me. He was just like being the big brother and saying, I'm doing what I can to help you move forward. Because you got to realize when it's all said and done, Legs is really not in the industry like that.
Right.
He's a b-boy. He's not trying to put out records. He's not a producer. He's not a rapper.
Right.
So he was just doing what he could
to
help. That's how the CNC thing started. That's his.
Right. And then that's a great segue into the question about CNC that I have for you is really like, a lot of what you've covered in other interviews that I want to dive into is like what were your biggest takeaways from the business perspective? Being an artist, you're sort of programmed on the right side of your brain where it's like you gravitate towards the things that make sense to you, being who I consider to be a virtuoso of sorts, right? In your craft. So with the CNC thing, and as you've developed as an artist, the past few years you've spent sort of recataloging your content, right? And what have been some of the biggest business takeaways that you've learned? Like if you had to give advice to another artist who is similarly programmed on that right side of the brain and doesn't, kind of strays away from the business and the math and all that stuff with it. I think we all struggle too as creatives to sort of get to that point where you're monetizing your art, where we struggle with it. There's something about it that we can't reconcile. So what would be your biggest advice to another artist who's just starting out and having to grapple with that?
Benicio del Toro was being interviewed and he said this quote, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact words, but I remember the intention. And it's something that I wish I had when I was dealing with CNC. He said, lower the volume on your expectations and all the excitement, lower the volume on that and raise the volume on just work ethic. And the reason why I say that is because when Crazy Legs came at me with the CNC thing, I didn't want it. I didn't like the music.
Right.
It wasn't my vibe. But I didn't have anything. And there's the famous phone call that happened when Crazy Legs showed up with Duran, who used to write for CNC, who was also a member of Trilogy. They asked me to rhyme. I rhymed because I didn't know what was happening. And then Duran was like, CNC is looking for someone, for a new rapper because they had lost Freedom Williams. And my instant response was like, nah, I'm good. And I remember them looking at me like I was insane because in their minds, I was passing on this money and this opportunity. But I was so connected with the soul of hip hop that I didn't feel like CNC was representing that. They were representing what they wanted to represent, which was dance music that was like a hybrid of rap and R&B and pop. And that's cool. I'm not saying hate on it. It just wasn't for me.
Right.
But what I would tell myself now, looking at the younger version of me, I'd be like, how about this? You don't have anything. Nobody knows who you are. Hold tight, do the work, get the money, and invest in yourself.
Right.
Stop barking. Stop making trouble.
I believe you met Destroy and Tony Touch at the same time, right? You guys were at the same spot, and then Legs calls over for a cipher, and then you guys go at it, and then you link up with the rest of the Arsonists, and that's it. You just know that this is what you want to be. This is like sign me up. And a lot of what I get from being a fan of the Arsonists is the part of the music, especially lyrically, that speaks to cultural representation, right? So speak a little bit about that, because I think there was a takeaway from that CNC deal where, Legs might have come to this realization or might have had to explain to you that, like, we don't know how to market you as a light-skinned Puerto Rican dude. So how did that experience for you translate into what you brought to the Arsonists? Like, what can you say about the Arsonists that stands for that cultural representation and the why behind it? Speak on that a little bit.
What CNC gave me to bring to the Arsonists was experience. With CNC, I toured the world. With CNC, I put out a song that went to #1 on Billboard. it was part of a cult movie called Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you know, getting checks from ASCAP, all of those experiences that really none of the arsonists had at the time. I was able to be like, yo, the machine has these perks and these things that could happen if we put the effort behind what it is that we're doing. Right. And it also gave me connects, because by the time we were ready and Tony brought the tape to Bobbito, who already knew me because of my group, the Nomads, Bobbito just reached out to me and was like, what are y'all doing? I want to put this song out. And because I had the connect, it was like a smooth transition from us doing demos to giving this guy the session in Halloween and sparking the flame for the Arsonists. I think we kind of like carefully tried to balance it where it wasn't too much, because we knew, I feel like people didn't fully know how to react to any Puerto Ricans doing anything, even though for me, in my opinion, I know that this is a controversial statement, but I feel like we were there from the beginning.
Right.
For some reason, I feel like until Pun punched everybody in the face, I think everything prior to that kind of like, it's hard for me to put into words. Like I explained, and you brought it up. I actually faced racism when I was trying to get a deal early in my career.
Right.
And just for looking the way I do. And it was painful because I was a kid. So when you're a kid and people are reacting that way, you don't know, you have raw emotion. It's like, I can't change what I am physically. This is me. And even crazier for me is that I'm biracial. I'm Puerto Rican and Italian. So it's like really strange for people. It's like, oh, we got some exotic shit here. And it's like, yep. I'm just a dude that loves hip hop, man. Wow. And I'm going to do my best to be skillful. And it was beautiful that we were all brown. You know, Arsonist is Puerto Rican, Panamanian, Dominican. It was beautiful, but we knew that we had to be careful with how we balanced it, because we knew that the audience was still kind of like, didn't know how to respond to brothers that look like us. And there were dudes that paved the way, Curious George and Power Rule and Latin Empire and all of these other dudes that were there from the beginning, Whipper Whip and Charlie Chase and Rudy D, and I could go on forever, but it's for some reason, people had a little bit of a difficult time accepting this.
You probably experienced this even doubly so on the flip side of that coin. So now I'm going to jump over to the rock shit, right? So coming up in Brooklyn, in the hip hop culture, you know, and you mentioned this in other interviews, you know, being a fan of rock, you know, you kind of have this wariness about it where your peers from the hood or your peers that are more entrenched in the hip hop culture are going to look at you and be like, oh, that's that white boy shit, or that's that, you know,
devil music.
What's up with that? You know, and they
turn it off.
You know, turn that shit off, man.
My love for rock music came before hip hop.
There you go.
My mother was a singer-songwriter. My uncle was a singer-songwriter. So I was surrounded by music my entire life. It just so happened that the combination was there was always music, but that my household was crazy. So it was like there was a weird balance going on.
Yeah.
My mother and my uncle would do more like folky type of rock, acoustic guitars, and go around to cafes and churches and things and sing. But I was always around for rehearsal as a little kid and just watch them and be in awe of what I was seeing. My uncle taught me my first drum pattern. My love for rock, and then my cousin Peter, who I named the StillWell mascot after, he's the one that took that love and enhanced it, because he was older than me. And every time we would go visit my aunt, he'd like scoop me up and sit me down and make me listen to Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and all of these bands that he was into. I was too young to fully grasp what it was that he was showing me, but I knew that I liked it. Like I loved the sound of it. I loved the aggression of it. Plus, growing up in an aggressive family, you just connect with it instantly. It's like, yeah, this fits my vibe. And I think hip hop stole my heart because you could be an individual. You don't need to get a guitar player, bass player, drummer, the keyboard player. And in that time in New York, there wasn't a whole lot of people around me in my era picking up guitars and drums. There was a few here and there. There were metalheads in school, but nobody was really with a guitar on their back that I knew of that was trying to do things. So hip hop just stole my heart, and it just took me on another journey. So that by the time I got back to even the thought of rock, crazy enough, the first person to suggest it was Crazy Legs, which is insane when you think about it, because he's not a rockhead at all. He might like a certain song, but he's not that guy.
No.
He's funk, he's James Brown, he's old school hip hop, you know, he loves that's his bag.
Yes.
So it was weird for him to like turn to me, but he knew me as a friend. So he's like, yo, you love this rock stuff. Why don't you go start a band? He was right. Way before I met Fieldy, he told me to go on MySpace, put an ad, and then a band answered. We started jamming, took them on the Vans Warped Tour, and then it just snowballed into this whole new path for me. And when God wants you to do something, he's going to throw things at you that don't make sense, which is the phone call from Bobby from Tribal.
There you go.
Hey, you want to do a song with Fieldy? And it's like, what? Again, I'm winning a ticket. Like, because you know, and I'm sure you know, sometimes you look like, why me? Not in an angry way, not in a negative way, but also like, that's weird.
This can't be life.
How did this happen? I didn't even ask for this, you know?
Yeah.
Korn wasn't on my radar like that, you know?
Exactly.
I knew who they were. Everybody knew who they were, but I always tell people at that time, my homie Vinny Ponti, who's a pro skater, he was taking me to hang out with Wu-Tang. So my eyes was on that. I was looking at that. That was intriguing. That was amazing to me. So a lot of the stuff in the beginning is really raw, and you could tell that I went from being Q unique with experience with all that I had to back to rookie mode and understanding this new thing that I was becoming a part of.
Got it. So you end up getting introduced to Fieldy, and talk a little bit about, because you start to describe a little bit about what it's like when you first get to his crib and realizing, wow, how many records did this guy actually sell? Dive in a little bit deeper. What was that first experience like meeting him, and how did that evolve into a cemented friendship that has lasted all these years?
At first, when I told some of the industry heads that I was actually gonna go out and do something musical with him, a lot of people were against it. Not because of anything of skill. It was more like they just felt like he would have been a bad influence because they were getting their opinion based on what he used to be in the past.
Right.
But the way I looked at it was, if Bobby from Tribal is telling me to, or asking me to do this, he knows something that the rest of the world just doesn't know. I roll up, I'm standing in front of this guy's mansion that was on Yo MTV Cribs. No, excuse me, just MTV Cribs. And I was like, what? Like, I had no idea. I was like, I knew these dudes were popular, but I didn't know it was this. And what I quickly discovered was he was super humble, man. Like, with everything that he had Grammys and Moon Men and mansions and incredible cars, and obviously he was paid. He was just really humble and just really cool from the get. And we wrote our first song on the first day we met, which was Killing Myself to Live. Wasn't really a far stretch. I was still being Q unique, sort of. What was different was I was playing keys and programming drums, no samples, and he came in with a guitar and a bass, and we just worked together. It was like instant chemistry, and it was like a precursor to what was going to be the journey moving forward.
It seems to me that we've been blessed enough, right, and throughout our respective journeys to have these individuals to just give us that little bit of encouragement, that little bit of a friendly nudge. Hey, man, let's keep at this.
Yes. It was the driving thing that kept us together as friends. And when he did that, because you got to understand that first album was a rough ride for me because you had said it, no runway. So people don't understand that I dove into something that I didn't really I had no full understanding of what it was that I was doing. I was just mimicking certain things that I thought would make sense.
Right.
It's almost like if I played everybody Q Unique demos before I started making records, it'd be the same type of listening. You'd be like, he's kind of cool, but it sounds really, really rough. It's the same thing, but only this time the demos were put on a CD and we were selling them. And then all of a sudden, I'm in, like you said, my first tour with Fieldy, doing an arena tour, which was insane for me because it's like, I knew I could attempt singing, but I didn't fully understand what it meant to sing. So when he said, we're going to do it again, the beauty of it was that the drummer from Korn, Ray Luzier, he turned around and was like, you got to get serious about singing.
When I interviewed Swell and we were talking about his experience being a part of the Arsonists, one of the things he was very emphatic about was giving all, like, almost like I almost had to stop him. We were like, hey, hold on, you were part of this too, man. You know, where he was just giving mad props to you, mad props to D. And you've talked about this in interviews before where he was kind of like D's cheerleader behind any sort of idea. He was a big supporter of what D brought to the creative mix, then the chemistry in the group. But as he was giving you all these props, which are absolutely deserved, I was also like, you know what? I think you're kind of downplaying yourself as well. I think if it were up to the guys and they had to, listen to your description of it, they might disagree and say that you had some very unique things to bring to the group's chemistry.
I could tell you instantly because I think it's something that needs to be said. Swell was the embodiment of encouragement, enthusiasm, and positivity. And his energy on stage was perfect for what it was that we was doing.
Right.
Swell was in some ways a role model for how to be a band member, how to be a good friend, how to be loyal. So what he might have lacked in what he believes being a lyricist, he had things that we lacked as far as being a member of a family, a musical family.
Seeing that camaraderie and that brotherhood last all these years is something that I think is hugely important. And I think that there's synergies between the loss over that group having dissolved when it did. I know that was a rough experience for you, and you and I also vibed on our own personal experiences with loss and grief.
Right.
So speak a little bit on that, and how has that influenced your approach to your craft in your professional life and in your personal life?
It humbled me losing the Arsonists. At the height of our career, we were all kind of carried away with ego and privilege, and our enthusiasm for certain things was a little too high for what it was that we were doing. And for my role, I know I dropped the ball, and me and Swell and D and all of us, we've talked about this constantly. I was in a silent leadership role where I could have been more like the RZA had I paid attention, but I wasn't. When you walk away from something like that and you're humbled, it could go either way. You could get really dark and depressed, and then all of a sudden nothing matters. Or you could look at it like I did and say, all right, made a mistake, but I still see the beauty in that Arsonist thing. But moving forward, I'm going to be more careful with how I maneuver through this whole thing, this weird journey of music. So you find me now being a lot more considerate towards others. I mean, the other day, it's funny that you bring this up. The other day, I was talking to Destroy like 2 days ago. And I was telling him that, what people don't know is that he's very different from the Destroy that I know today, because his career choice is different. He's not rapping anymore. He's one of the greatest hosts on the planet. And what he does on the radio, what he does on stage is magical, but it's different from what we did with the Arsonists. That's a different skill set. There's no lyrics involved with that. That's personality and charisma. That's something that he possesses a ton of. But what I told him was that I love what you're doing. I'm rooting for him. I think he's one of the greatest. But for me, I just want my friend.
Right.
All I want. I never ask him for favors. I don't ask him for hookups. I don't do none of that because I respect what it is that he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because sometimes he gets annoyed because I don't ask. Like he said on the air a few weeks ago, this is why I was on his show, because he was joking on the air a few weeks ago. He was like, you know, it's funny, out of everybody that's been on my show, Q's never been on my show. And he made a point of it. So I was like, all right, well, yo, I'm going to be in New York. I'll be on your show.
Exactly.
I just look at him as my brother. That's more important to me than the whole weird illusional of music business.
And that in and of itself is what makes him so special, right? Because of the fact that he's surprised at the fact that we're, you know, not coming to him as, oh, let me be on the show or stuff like that, is because he's willing in such a way that a lot of people aren't these days to really put shine on folks who are passionate. You know, he's a very good reader of people, and he's able to give shine to those who don't often get that kind of shine. Look at what he just did last week. I mean, he went out to San Antonio to give shine to his cousins, you know, because they're out there. They got the barbershop and whatnot. Even having them on the show talking about it, you know, they're like, yo, we got to get him to come out. We got to drag him out here. We're experienced. We got to drag him out here, you know, but he really is willing to carry people on his back, you know, because
him and Swell come from Planet Positive.
Exactly.
Exactly. Both of them have that energy, and it's magical.
So we got the book on the horizon. What was the creative process like for you, and how would you summarize the context of what was going on while the Arsonists were in full force?
The book is important in that manner because it's, for a long time, we've felt that we were being forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
When we would look at certain people's documentaries or some write-up or a mentions in books or people putting together movies that we knew we were in the room for these movies, but somehow just didn't make the cut, we started looking at each other like, for some reason they're forgetting us. I don't understand. You know, we were great when we were peaking and getting on stage and everybody loved us. And all of a sudden, now that the dust has settled, a lot of people have forgotten that we did anything. And instead of being angry about it, we come to the realization that we're going to have to just tell our own story, man. What are you going to do? We're just going to have to be responsible for the legacy and the history of this thing. And that's when, for me, instead of being angry at these movies and books and articles about not mentioning us, I started to dig deep within and say, wait a minute, this Arsonist thing is actually really beautiful to me, and it's very important to me. So when we all started talking about this book, the process for me was both emotional and focused, in a sense of digging and looking for photos, and you're tripping out, you're looking at all of this history and all of these things we got to experience. 5 kids from Bushwick, Brooklyn that didn't have anything. We got to go see the world together and experience some incredible things. So it's a very emotional thing, but it's also a thing of, hey guys, remember us? Because we do. Here it is. Document. You were there. And the other things that I was responsible for was writing certain chapters and just capturing the essence of what was going on in New York City and where we fit in what was going on in New York City at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to write that. And I also wrote a paragraph on the label Matador, because what's unique about that label was, A, they weren't a hip hop label. They were an indie rock label that loved us. And B, in my opinion, now looking back, they were easily the greatest label for our situation. I have no complaint. Yeah, normally artists will say the label ripped us off and the label is so foul. And I can't even say that about Matador. They would direct opposite. They loved what they do. They did everything correctly, with passion, with love, and with care. And I'm forever grateful for that label to introduce us to a broader audience around the world.
In addition to experiencing the loss of the brotherhood that the Arsonists put together, although it has endured to this day, there was a moment of grieving over that loss once the band dissolved. But you actually did experience the loss of your blood brother. And as we discovered yesterday, we kind of share a little bit of parallels in that regard. So how did experiencing that impact your journey professionally in terms of your connection to your sense of purpose and the why behind what's your driving force?
My brother was the lesson of the cliche that life is short. People say that to each other a lot, and I feel like people don't listen. And so they end up wasting a lot of time. When my brother passed and I saw what he left behind, and I saw that he's missing a lot of things. He's not here. His children, his family, the experiences that he could have had, him sharing my experiences of what it was that I was doing. And that life is short phrase took life from me. It made me really understand that tomorrow is all of those cliche things that people tell each other, but then they ignore it and they take it for granted. I don't take it for granted. That's why you see me doing so much, because I don't know where the end is to all of this. All I know is that I have to be very focused on what it is that I do. And it's very important.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's always challenges, whether somebody's not happy with what it is that I do, or maybe I'm not somebody's cup of tea, but these things no longer matter to me. It's none of my business. It's like, if you don't like me singing, or if you don't like me rapping, or if you don't like my face, there's a million other people. There's so much variety. Don't waste your time bothering me with your feedback if it has nothing positive or encouraging. It's not something that I no longer care about. I'm just going to do what I do to my rules, to my shape. And so my brother's passing gave me that. And the other thing that's important, and this includes Ill Bill, when Ill Bill got at me to do the first solo album, Vengeance Is Mine, he knew who I was personally. It was his idea for me to get personal on the album. What we didn't realize was that it opened up this writer, this different type of writer in me that I didn't know, because in the Arsonists, we weren't really personal rappers on there.
Mm-hmm.
When I got to Vengeance Is Mine, I have songs like The Setup and Father's Day, and those more personal storytelling, real, true storytelling songs took effect on the people listening to a point that I didn't know that was going to happen, where people were writing me long DMs about how The Setup was the most important song, and they would share their personal stories to connect to mine. And all of a sudden, it kind of like gave me this new thing, so that whenever I had lost, like my brother or my parents going through rough times and trying to adjust to real life, all it did was it helped me to vent and connect with my audience, because I knew, now I understood that the audience is just as broken as I am.
Right.
And something that we could relate to. On the album Royal Blood, I wrote this song that's very important about my full song about my brother, called 133rd Song. So in loss, it gave me something to share so that my listeners could relate, because when I wrote that song, a lot of people were like, I lost my brother, I lost my sister, I lost my dad. Thank you for writing this song. And what's crazy is the way I think, the way I process things, I took that feeling and I spread it across the table. So I have a Q Unique song about my brother, and then I got a StillWell song about my brother called Could Have Sworn. And it just shows you that I'm growing and evolving into this person, that I'm taking these real personal things and I'm sharing them with you so that we have a connection. We have loss and we have victory at the same time. That's how I want to balance my music, whether it's with rock or hip hop, is the victory and the defeats. And we can connect and be friends through this.
Yeah.
And that's important to me. So having my brother, losing my brother, opened up this whole new way of writing and processing music. That's another reason why I changed my catalog up so much, because I started to realize that what was more important to me was heartfelt messages and hip hop with dignity.
First of all, salute to you for going through such a personal experience and being able to share it and being able to handle it with grace and come out on the other side of it really with this strong sense. You can just tell that you're the kind of artist that just moves with great purpose and great intention, to your point about, no, I'm not going to put something on wax just to put it on wax. So I'm not going to drop a mixtape just because everybody's dropping a mixtape. So it's hugely inspirational to hear stuff like that. So salute to you for that. And I think what you just described, with people ending up sharing their stories with you as a result of you putting yourself out there and being vulnerable enough to take your lived experience and channel it through your art, is about finding community in hip hop, in rock, and that's being that this is a lot of what this show is about. That's a perfect segue into that. So part of such influential groups with the Arsonists, with Rocksteady Crew, how has your involvement in those influential groups shaped your understanding of community, especially within hip hop?
You have to respect each other's space. You have to, because what people don't realize when they see groups and crews come and go, it's based on bad communication and not respecting each other's space. That's the sum of it all. And it's a shame. It's something that not to go on a crazy tangent, I'll keep it simple. I feel like it's something that should be taught in school, how to communicate with others. Bad communication causes war and destruction and violence. That's what it does. Even in hip hop, we're all from the street. We're all from broken homes. We're all from dire situations. You're not taught to communicate there. You're taught to survive.
Right.
By the time you're trying to build a community with others and you don't know how to talk to each other, before you know it, you're disrespectful towards each other, and you're not being cool with each other, and you're not being cool with each other's time and space. That's what I learned. It's because a lot of it ended right before my eyes, and because of our mistakes of not knowing how to communicate, not knowing how to lead, not knowing how to manage the situation or troubleshoot a problem properly. And the Arsonist broke. When I look at it now through mature eyes, would have handled it totally opposite the way I did.
Right.
Way opposite. Our initial response was break it all up and kick him out and he got to go. Now I look at it and be like, no, I would have
talked that one out.
I would have healed it.
Yeah.
Band-Aid on. Let's heal this.
I would also challenge that, though, respectfully, to say that there were plenty of moments where you got to experience the positive side of community in your career, right? Especially through collaborations, folks giving you that little bit of encouraging nudge, like, hey, this maybe is not it for StillWell. Maybe we do need to keep at this, Crazy Legs, like, hey, go start a rock group, or even saying like, yo, the CNC deal is maybe not what you're looking for right now, but there's a larger purpose at work, Your
That's
experience.
beautiful. It's so beautiful that you said it. First of all, if I went through a quick timeline and did what you said, if it wasn't for Crazy Legs, I don't start my journey at all.
Right.
No matter where Rocksteady ended up that. Him, lessons from Wiggles, Fable, Kenny, all the elders in Rocksteady, all the elders in Zulu. If it wasn't for this group of elders, I'd be lost. These elders from Rocksteady and Zulu are the people that helped me go from crawling to walking, taught me about myself, taught me how to eat, how to deal with life, how initially.
Yeah.
And then the Arsonists gave me the gift that I wanted, which was real hip hop with real people. And it helped me evolve as a lyricist, because before them, I was in the Nomads. I was still in a rough place as a lyricist. I still didn't fully get it. The Arsonists made me really get it. Like, this is what it is. Pay attention. And they elevated my skill tenfold. And then when that ended, Ill Bill putting out my solo album was massive. It was the most selfless act in the world, because he didn't need to do that. He didn't need me. He didn't need it. He's a powerhouse in my opinion. That dude is ridiculously talented as a lyricist and as an artist. But his selfless act of saying, I'm gonna help you to get on your feet, because he saw the Arsonist thing disintegrated. He could have ignored me. He didn't need to help me.
Yeah.
To help me get on my feet and to be there and help me even, again, another person, Ill Bill, somebody who I look and regard as a great, incredible lyricist, helped me to evolve even further from myself as a lyricist. Because now here he is with me trading lines and looking, kind of like looking at my homework per se, as we were writing my solo album, you know?
Right.
And the beauty of it for me was, at least I was humble enough to listen to his suggestions, because I could have been a total douche and be like, I'm Q Unique. But that never occurred to me, because I respected him. I knew his potential. I knew how great he was. And then he, like I said, he opened up this can of worms of me becoming this very personal storyteller, this person that wanted to share, this person that wanted to be vulnerable. On top of that, what people don't understand, another reason why I thought this way is because the type of rock music that I listen to, which is what people call grunge. That's the genre of rock that spoke to me the most. And because that genre spoke of pain and loss and sorrow, so I instantly related to that, because my childhood was crazy. And you could, if you listen to Vengeance Is Mine and Between Heaven and Hell and certain songs that you'll get a gist of some of the things that I saw growing up. So, and what's crazy is I got to sing with the guitar player from Alice in Chains years and years later. So that just shows you how God just knows, and he just
another legend.
It's like it's just fascinating how God does things. But
shout out to Jerry Cantrell, another legend.
Yes, sir, king. So yes, on a positive note, I do, and it's dope that you say that. I do understand how all of these people play such pivotal roles in my life, whether it's just a small little boost or it's somebody like Ill Bill that's helping my evolution. It just Fieldy's another one. You got to understand that Fieldy and Wov, remember it's Wov too from POD, the drummer from POD.
Yep.
Those dudes have been so encouraging to me through the whole time. This is a 20+ year thing that we've been doing.
Yeah.
They never struggled with what it was that I was attempting to do. They just cheered me on and worked with me and wrote songs with me. So even that in itself is a beautiful thing. They don't, those two guys, their level of success is so big, they don't need a guy like me in their life. They don't need it. They're good, they're set, but it's real friendship stuff, and it's beautiful, and it's positive, and it's encouraging.
I'm glad that you brought up your passion for the grunge era of rock music, because that is a perfect segue for me to show you your prize, bro. I feel so grateful, honored and privileged to have had the time to speak with you, to get to know you better. And I want to make sure that I show that in the form of a gem. Okay. So I got a gem for you. We'll talk offline about how I'm gonna get this to you. You said, but I want to make sure that I show this to you and that I get your reaction. So this, I'm not sure if you can see, is a portrait of Chris Cornell.
Oh my God.
So this is going to be my gem to you, sir, as a thank you for allowing me the time to get to know you better. Sharing
I got to meet him briefly.
Yeah, talk about it.
It was very brief and I was terrified. Corn was I've toured with Corn for damn near 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they happened to be doing a series of shows with Jerry, excuse me, Jerry, with Chris Cornell.
Mm-hmm.
And he happened to, you didn't really see him a lot, but one day we were backstage and I was walking and there he was. And he was talking to Monkey, the guitar player from Korn.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to shake his hand. I didn't want to say anything. It was one of those don't meet your heroes moments where I was just like, wow, we're in the room, and it just, if you listen to my vocal stylings, obviously I'm clearly inspired by him, as well as other artists, but he's clearly a big influence and inspiration. So to meet him before he took his journey off the planet was just like, that's something I'll never forget. Just to be able, all I did was wave, hey, what's up, guys? That's it. That's all to me, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I'm
same here.
I'm but a rookie here. You don't need to know who I am. This is not important.
Yeah, same here, man.
So for you to do that, it's like, my God, man, it's like you hit the nail right on the head. It's like
beautiful. I'm glad.
That guy's a superhero, man. It's
100%. I got to I never had the privilege of shaking his hand, but I as a fan, I got to experience the 20th anniversary show for Super Unknown.
Oh my goodness.
Webster Hall. Dude.
Oh my God.
I was front and center right under Chris, man. It was an unforgettable show, to say the least.
Magical. I got to see Stone Temple Pilots that way before Scott Weiland obviously went his way. I got to see Stone Temple Pilots in full, and it was magical for me. It was like, yes.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorite bands. So
100%, man. Well, listen, I want to thank you again. I think we've had a wonderful conversation. And I think we've got enough for a part 2 still. You and I.
Oh yeah, of course, man.
Got a lot of things in common. That there's a lot to unpack here. There's plenty of stuff left on my little Google Doc over here for us to carve out a part 2. So I'm sure, once we have time to settle down and see how this one gets received, we'll definitely have to double back for a part 2, man, because your career is one that has experienced so many different chapters, and I feel like you're at a point now where it's almost a renaissance of sorts, right? You got Royal Blood, we got the 20th anniversary coming up for Vengeance Is Mine. You got another project.
Just had a 25th anniversary for the first
Arsonists album. I mean, it still feels like such an exciting and vibrant time for you. You got the God Numbers, the next project coming out. It just feels like not only are you at a point of artistic freedom, but it's like a legacy moment for you, where it's like you know what you mean to the hip hop world, the rock world, and it's such a beautiful place of unapologetic existence that it's just like, yo, go, would you agree with that?
Yes.
Do you feel that liberation?
I do feel liberation. But I do feel different for both genres. I feel like with hip hop, I clearly understand who I am, what I've done, what I've seen. With rock, I still look at myself as a rookie. I still look at myself as somebody that is having fun with it, learning with it, exploring, and I'm still evolving there. I'm still learning things there. Whereas with hip hop, I feel like I'm more in the groove of knowing who I am and where I come from and what I'm going to do moving forward. Whereas with rock, I'm still kind of like exploring, inventing, and working with others and beyond StillWell and just really enjoying it and not in a place where I want anybody to think that I think of myself as some rock out or something, because I don't. I just look at myself as a rookie still that's on a journey, a rookie on a journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's understandable, right? Because you're humble. You're a humble individual, but let facts are facts, right? 20 years in the game, you know, that's a long time, bro. You know, and as someone, I would also venture to say, as someone who's got deeper ties in the hip hop community, that is what makes you such a wild card to be in the rock scene. You know what I'm saying? Because there's not a lot of folks who are doing it in rock that have the street cred that you have.
No.
You know, so that I think is a feather in your cap, and that's what I think will actually lend to the next evolution of what we see, you know, in terms of collaboration. We've seen hip hop and rock be juxtaposed a lot since the beginning, right?
Yes,
you know, so it's like, what does it look like going forward? Does it look like what Linkin Park just did, bringing in a female lead singer, you know, or does it look like what my man Q Unique is gonna do?
Let's see. We will
that's
see.
where I'm looking at it from. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate that. Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. Salute to you. Thank you once again. And yeah, Jersey City Jeff and Q Unique on Beats, Rhymes y Comunidad. We will see y'all next time, yo. Salute.
Peace.